Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's video. So over the past month, I've been playing multiple games with the Apple Arcade free trial on my iPhone. One game in particular encouraged me to do this, but we'll get to that later. Believe me, I really wasn't expecting much from this service, but I gotta admit, it was actually pretty good. I don't plan on renewing my subscription or anything, since it's still pretty pricey, but I would highly recommend trying out the free trial. Today, we're going to be looking at some of my favorite games I played, and my overall opinion on Apple Arcade. Before we begin, I must clarify that I played all the games here with my PS4 controller. It surprisingly worked with every game I played via Bluetooth, and I'm very glad that I had the option to use a controller. Honestly, some of the games I couldn't really imagine playing without one. But with that, let's get into the first game I played, and the reason why I wanted to try out Apple Arcade in the first place. So before I started the trial, I looked into all the games that were offered, and I was majorly surprised by how many I had heard of, or that I had seen on sale for my Switch and PS4. And one of those games was Sayonara Wild Hearts. Because of its short length, I wasn't willing to spend over $10 on this game, which is why I was looking for alternative ways to play it, since it still looked really stunning. To my surprise, it was actually on Apple Arcade. So yeah, this is the game that made me do the trial, and honestly, this game is pretty amazing. Like I said, it is very short, I beat it in one sitting, but that wasn't a problem when I got it essentially for free. For those who don't know, Sayonara Wild Hearts is a fast-paced runner-style game, I guess, that has you mainly riding on a motorcycle at high speeds while listening to epic music. And this game delivers that and more. There's tons of levels to choose from, and each few have their own new mechanic. Only one I didn't enjoy, but the rest were amazing. Sometimes you'll have to shoot stuff with the bow, sometimes you'll parry attacks with a sword and good timing, or my personal favorite, you go first person with guns on your motorcycle and blast everything into space. If you couldn't tell, this game is just so fun. It's action-packed and everything moves with the music. There's just so much to love. It's not even too difficult either, except if you want to get the best rank on every level. And oh man, the final level, it just combines everything into this one mashup of awesomeness. Honestly, if you have an Apple phone, get the trial just to play this game, if nothing else. Even without a controller, I'm sure it'd still be great. Another main thing that hooked me into this game was the visuals. It's full of vibrant colors and super smooth animations, even if the graphics technically aren't amazing or anything. Honestly, I wish a game like this would combine with something like Persona 5. Imagine a fast-paced car chase but themed as Persona 5. That would be to die for. After playing this game, I've seriously been debating getting it on my PS4 for the big screen. Really, my one complaint with the game, apart from it being too short, is that sometimes the levels can be also very short, and it kinda breaks the flow when you get sent back to the main menu to choose the next level. But the game even solves this problem by letting you play the whole thing, no interruptions, once you've beat it once. So yeah, really no complaints with this game. It's stunning and a wonderful indie game. Honestly, one of my favorites of all time. The next game I tried out was Rayman Mini. I had never played a Rayman game before, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. And, well, I didn't like it. I've come to know that I don't like 2D platformers where you run automatically. I just feel so stressed and like I have no control. So I actually only played a couple levels from this game since I didn't care for it. I'm not saying Rayman is a bad series or anything, I just personally don't like the gameplay. Actually, just to make sure, if anyone listening has played the other games, are they all like this? Or can you actually move forwards and backwards at your own control? Thanks. Moving on, I honestly don't know why this game caught my attention, but I played this indie game called Discolored, and it was alright. It was a puzzle game, which I'm already not a fan of, and it bases a lot of the puzzles on color. You stay in one area the entire game, so there's a lot of revisiting areas and exploring to find out what to do next. The puzzles were actually a nice challenge, and unlike other puzzle games, the game was short enough that I didn't get bored of how it worked. I also played it in one sitting, and I thoroughly did enjoy it. Now, if there's one thing that could have made it a lot better, is if it was a horror game. The atmosphere to the setting in this game, which is an abandoned diner and home, is so creepy. I was on edge the whole time, even though nothing scary ended up happening. I honestly would have died of fright if something had happened, but the spooky atmosphere was still really fun, just kinda disappointing in the end. The next game I'll discuss was a game called Pilgrims. Once again, I don't know why this game caught my eye. It's a point-and-click puzzle game, which is pretty much the opposite of what I enjoy. Still, it was nice nonetheless. It was clearly a game meant for younger children, but I enjoyed certain aspects like the unique hand-drawn style. Still, it was rather short and didn't offer much gameplay or story-wise, so I wouldn't say I'd recommend it to an older audience. So funny enough, the next game I played I had never heard of before, but in the last Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, it was announced for Switch. This game was Inmost, a short pixelated game based on its story. I feel like this is becoming a reoccurring theme, but once again, it was okay. Nothing amazing, nothing awful. The game mainly revolves around the story, but there is some platforming, slight puzzles, and even some combat. Yet, none of these are really branched out enough to be interesting, so I wasn't really interested in playing for the gameplay. So what about everything else? It was okay. The style of the graphics was very dark and depressing, and the story was just that. I didn't understand half of what was going on due to a couple of reasons that we'll get to in a second, but the stuff that I did get was pretty sad. It was kinda compelling, but I would have been fine with stopping and not completing the game halfway through. The one thing about the story that was frustrating was actually the graphics. There's barely any voice acting or text boxes, so the story mainly relies on visuals. But the pixelated graphics are never detailed enough to show you what's really going on. Half the cutscenes I was just like, huh? Who's that? What's happening? But maybe that's just me. I would encourage you to try out this game if you have the time, and give me your opinion on it. It does seem like the team who made it put quite a bit of effort into it, so I want the people who like this kind of stuff to experience it. Next up is Exit the Gungeon. Something I was very surprised to see because of how relatively new it was. I hadn't played the original when I tried it out, and I now have, and am having a pretty good time, but with Exit the Gungeon, well, I didn't stay long. The game didn't seem that bad or anything, but it kind of felt like they took a lot of the good stuff from the first game and turned it bad. Oh, you like the dodge roll and how you were immune for the first half? Well, now you're just immune whenever you're in the air. Oh, you liked finding good guns and relying on that for a good run? Well, now your gun randomly changes every 2 seconds. Of course, at the time, I didn't actually know what the first game was like, but looking back, it's just far less superior to the original. Actually, the reason I didn't play it for long was because it crashed tons and ran like garbage. Enter the Gungeon is a very difficult game, and there's always a whole lot going on, so I didn't know what I was expecting. Still, I just couldn't stand the game crashing in the middle of a good run, so I didn't play it for long. I must point out though, this game must be impossible with your hands. I mean, it's freaking hard with a controller, so when you're playing with your fingers, it honestly has to be impossible. Moving on to the second last game I played, let's discuss Bleak Sword. This is a 2D, very challenging game that marketed itself as a sort of mobile Dark Souls. While using a controller, I didn't find it too hard, but it still was an absolute blast. This is one of those games that doubles down on gameplay and focuses on nothing else. The story exists, but it's just there to explain what you're doing and why. Even the graphics are very limited pixel graphics, but it doesn't matter when you have such good gameplay and smooth animations. There's a lot more depth to the combat than you would imagine, with a whole bunch of enemy variety, unique, if easy, boss battles, things like powerful charged attacks and fast but weak quick attacks, and of course the dodge, and even this mechanic where you get one chance to reclaim your items before you lose them forever, just like Dark Souls. The last mechanic is actually really good, and lets the game be punishing, but not so punishing that you want to quit playing it. Items are pretty easy to find and don't majorly affect the gameplay, but the experience points can be deal breakers. They let you get your permanent upgrades, which are essential in the later game, so dying can have a big consequence. So yeah, similar to Exit the Gungeon, I couldn't imagine playing this without a controller, but if you have one and are okay with the challenge, I would highly recommend Bleak Sword as a game to play. It was just too fun. And the last game I played was Shantae and the Seven Sirens. I legitimately had no idea who Shantae was before I started seeing everyone want her in Smash, and even then I didn't know what her games were actually like. So I thought now that I had the chance, I should try out the series and see what all the fuss is about. Alright, so honest opinion here, I still don't know what all the fuss is about. It was a fun game, but nothing amazing. I've read it's not one of her best games, but if this is what most of her games are like, I mean, I don't know, it was just so bland. It was essentially just a slightly higher budget basic 2D platformer with some Metroidvania elements. I had a good time, and there were certain things I loved, but for the most part, it was meh. The platforming was fine, the combat had a little more depth than I expected, Shantae was a good character I guess, the story was alright, and I did enjoy some of the hand-drawn cutscenes and animation. The humor was actually not bad at times, and that's about it. The bosses were honestly really bad, as most of them had very repetitive attacks and way too much health to be fun. But before you hate me, if there's one thing this game did get right on point, it was the music. Bro, this game's soundtrack is actually amazing. I have so many songs from it on my video game playlist, and some of them are like my favorite songs of all time. Some are 8 or 16-bit, and others are loud, catchy, modern tunes. And then some combine both and are absolutely fantastic. I mean, just listen to the credits song, it's my favorite. But yeah, that's about it for the games I played. I tried a few other ones, but none that are really worth noting. As a whole, Apple Arcade offers many good short experiences, but I wouldn't say it's worth keeping for a long time. A controller is highly recommended by me, and don't worry about playing games on a phone. The screen was small, but for the most part it still looked okay and ran fine. If you have some time on your hands and are looking for a free way to play some great indie games, Apple Arcade is definitely something you should try. And that's it for this week's video. Thanks for watching everyone, and thanks for all the support my channel's been getting. We're growing pretty fast. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and share this video with your friends. Also, do you guys have any video ideas that you'd want to see me do? If you do, leave them down in the comments, and maybe I'll end up making them. Thanks again everyone. Bye.